Welcome back to the club room. It's been a while for us doing one, I must admit, but it's great to be back. We have got Manx joining us tonight. You've had your samples come through. Hopefully they got to you safely. We have got Andy, Alan and Becky joining us, and you can see them.
Yep. Okay, girls and boys, everybody out there, hi, good evening, good morning. I don't know where anybody is in the world. It's somewhere interesting, I hope. For your first sampling tonight, we're going to start off not at the beginning, there's a song in there, but in 1997. Okay, this is when Manx was born, and we created out of the ashes of a lawsuit in the High Court in London, a new spirit drink. And that category is Manxspirits, a spirit drink that's been distilled and acquired its organoleptic qualities on the Isle of Man. Prior to that, we had a chap called Lucien Landau, who was a very eminent, was he Czech? Polish. He was a Polish inventor and founded the London Rubber Company, who went on to make Marigold gloves and Durex condoms. And he was a very, very wealthy gentleman who lived on the Isle of Man. He would have been in his late 60s, 70s when he first got interested in why whiskey is made the way it is.
Haven't read this book. Do you want me to?
Oh, have you got a copy?
I'm going with him. Lucien, he was an expert in a lot of stuff, and apparently a lawyer was using them for things and asked. He had this case to do with whiskey and said, "Do you know anything about whiskey?" And he said, "I don't, but give me 6 months." And he went away, learned to learn stuff, and the case was all to do with where whiskey's maturing in barrels, is that a factory or
a warehouse. Yeah, because one was going to be rated by the local council and the other one wasn't. One's either a warehouse or a factory, and they claimed that because the product came in as one thing and left as another, it was a factory.
So they won the case, but when Lucien got into all the details of it, he wasn't happy with how whiskey was done with that. He thought it was that putting it in barrels and then how it comes out, and especially the angel share, so alcohol's evaporating, and he thought that was inefficient. So this, according to his autobiography, this was playing on his mind it keeps popping up during different decades. When he came back to the Isle of Man to retire, he was still ominous, and he wanted to make the process different, which is then why he then got the Isle of Man to allow distilling, because before that was illegal, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, actually, technically, for a large part of the time, it wasn't illegal, and that was the problem. They, because I don't know if you're aware of where the Isle of Man is. It's right in the middle of the Irish Sea. So we've got Ireland on to our west.
Yeah.
Al's a Coast Guard. So, yeah, it's over to the west. And of course, we got Scotland, Wales, and the English coast as well. So, yeah, whiskey has been coming from the Isle of Man for a very long time, many centuries, but not necessarily paying any taxes wherever it landed. And we got Peggy, the rum clipper and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, we've got a long history of alcohol on the island. But Lucien realized that if he could literally refine the process, he could get a product at the end of it which would be how he wanted, rather than how something else created. So he played around, and he built it was a little too soon. This is a bottle of our first distillation.
Well,
Lucien's. This was done in 1977, never been opened. There are about, 6 of these?
Case, yeah.
Maybe 12 bottles of these left in the world. Tastes quite nice, actually. But you'll notice it's brown, but I'll come on to that later. He bought a modified stainless steel vessel with a heated inner coil, And the purists out there are going to say that sounds like it could be a still, or it could be a large heating vessel for washing or heating water for a washing company. So he shipped that to the Isle of Man and turned it into a still, and it worked. It was highly inefficient and guzzled oil like you wouldn't believe, but it worked. We could get 3,000 litres of bulk whiskey heated up to evaporate and then condense, and do it that in comfortably just about 18 hours. So he did scale up a system. We've since then, well, Alhan since then built and designed a brand new still that we currently use at the moment. But
also, going to Lucian's book, originally he was going to do whiskey, like start it properly, like from the all himself, but on the Isle of Man he didn't think there was enough grain could be grown, and then he was going to get the new make brought over and age it himself, but he found that at the time the price for a new make and 3-year-old was about the same. So it just made sense to bring in already aged stuff and then redistill it, break it apart and rebuild it to his liking. So the reason for using whiskey that someone else has made is economies of scale and profit, especially with being on the Isle of Man where he happened to be when he decided to do it.
But there is another reason, I think, for using whiskey, and I don't know how many of you out there might cringe a little at this, but blending. Lucian always said to me, and I knew him fortunately for, when did he die? Was it mid-90s? Yeah, I knew him in 1990, and I got to know him quite well for 91, 92. But he always, blending, he called averaging, because it's averaging. He says, why are you mixing the good stuff with the bad stuff? Why don't you just drink the good stuff? And that was his mentality. He said, why are you dumbing it down? Why don't you just eliminate that? Or if there was something in one component of a blended whiskey that you didn't like, but you needed to use it because that's your bulk stock that you have, then why not remove it? And that's where Lucian started, and I continued in the early 90s, 94 in particular, 95 when we took out a patent, to really look at how whiskey is made, what makes it good, what makes it not so good, and what can you do about it if it's not so good. And that's where we kind of stepped in. And that's what's always fascinated me, and it made sense to me. If you've got N-nitrosodimethylamine in your whiskey, why wouldn't you want it out? Because it's not very good for you. No, that's a McCaptain. You really don't want that, and we won't mention which nearby distillery.
Anyway.
Should we get on to giving the Manx a taste?
Oh shit! You guys just listen to me talk. None of you have had a drink.
No, it's all been in.
Sorry.
That's exactly what you're here for. That's exactly what you're here for. I'll have a nose, of it and a taste.
Right.
And I'll go around a few of you and just see what you're getting off it, to be honest. Nick?
So we were starting with Manx.
We're on Manx. What's your thoughts on it at the moment, mate? What you getting?
Manx, we're drinking first.
So I've poured it about 10 minutes ago, so it's been under a cover for that length. I'm getting those sort of sweet foam bananas on the nose, and sort of pear drops, but it's very clean as well, if you know what I mean. It's got a very, very sharp but clean sort of aroma. I haven't tried it yet, but I'll give it a nose for a bit longer, I think.
Yeah, cool. Andy, what are you getting, mate?
Not you. No.
Sorry.
Evening, guys. Pretty much the same as Nick, but I'm getting like a little icing sugar, like we would do with a single grain.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of vanilla.
Cool.
Reminds me a lot of the Spirit of Birmingham vodka, actually.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
on the nose.
That's good.
Tom, what are you getting, mate?
Yeah, I think I'm getting quite a lot of cereal notes off of it. Sort of a little bit of rye bread, a little bit of coastal to it as well, bit of saltiness.
Nice. Levi, what are you getting, mate?
Yeah, I think similar to I can't remember who said it now. I think it was Andy said it's quite the sort of the thin taste to it, smell to it. Sorry, like yeah, because obviously it's distilled single malt, so you've got that whiskey, the undertones from the whiskey, but it's cleaner.
Nice, awesome. Loughley, what are you getting, mate? Remember, you're on mute.
It smells very similar to new make to me that I've tasted recently. I get a slight grapefruity kind of smell of it. There's a distillery over here that does poaching, and it's very similar to that. Yeah,
awesome. You like it? You like your nose that you like?
Yeah, and it's quite warm in the taste too. I couldn't wait, so I had a little taste. There's definitely a heat to it when you first try it.
Yeah, cool. Johnny?
Yeah, definitely getting the cereal the other guys have mentioned. There is a fruitiness there, and I think grapefruit could be nudging close to that. I think it could be on that. The sweetness, icing sugar, I'm not getting so much, but there's definitely a sweetness to it. I can't quite place it just yet.
Awesome. Toby, what's your thoughts, mate?
For me, I'm getting like those milk bottle sweets. I'm getting those. I'm definitely getting the icing sugar that Andy picked up, and I'm also getting that new make character as well.
Mm.
So a lot of sweet shop.
Yeah, so it's a big sweet shop fruity kind of thing, yeah?
As well.
So what we get?
Yeah.
Andy from Manx. Oh.
Right.
So what are your notes on it? What do you kind of?
And Becky as well.
Yeah, all three of you, to be honest. What's the official notes?
It's interesting when it's gone to awards stuff and we get the taste notes from that because they're all over the place. Like some saying it's got a long finish, some say it's short finish.
Yeah.
I think it tastes nice.
I concur with my partner over here. I think it tastes nice too, if that's not good.
Unless you drink more, it's like, oh, it's getting nicer.
I'll tell you what, no.
I hope you'd say that because if you did,
we tell you it's our first time doing one of these.
Yeah. I also have what's called a real grown-up job as well. So I've been chefing all day today, non-stop. I have had literally 3 slices of bread and some wonderful Manxspirits. So I was told it was going to be relaxed and I wouldn't be
attacked. It's very relaxed. You will be getting a spoon if you don't behave yourself.
Yeah. I tell you what can be interesting though is if you can imagine a simple pot still, you're going to have your still chamber, put in your liquid, you're going to heat it up, the volatile elements will rise up the neck, down the condenser, and you capture a spirit. We can boil to whatever point we like. It makes economic sense that when you start approaching 99.4, 99.5, that you're going to be running out of compounds of interest that could be coming over in a distillate. So we, rather than look at the alcohol strength as it comes off the end, we're looking at the fractionation point of the temperature at the junction point at the swan neck. And for that, what we shut off the heat, and as soon as we shut off the heat, everything collapses back in on itself, and what we're left with is residue, and that comes out of the still. It's brown. Yeah. If you can imagine ashtray from a pub in 1983, which somebody had spilt Carling in and left it in the pub, and you just found it, you get a very stale sort of burnt. It's not a pleasant
No,
smoky. I mean, I smoke and I don't particularly like it, but that's left in our residue. And so when we drain the bottom of a still, that's what comes out, and that's what we get rid of. And that's what you guys didn't drink.
Also, for the Manx Spirit, as it's coming over, when we got just the neutral alcohol coming over, we separate some of that to try and intensify the flavour, which would be the same as if it was left in the barrel for longer and the evaporation, the angels share. So we mug the angels, we don't let them.
And we mugged them. Our accountant didn't allow us to have this nonsense of losing 1% production a year and not doing anything about it. Yeah.
The first time, because when I got involved, we tried to retire the Manx Spirit, and we were concentrating on the Bifrost. And with the Bifrost, we just basically heat it up and cool it down again. We don't separate it the same. But the person who's what would you call Bernie?
Oh, he's our distributor.
Our distributor that fully does into making more Manx Spirit again.
We had a customer, genuinely, no word of a lie, our distributor on the Isle of Man turned around and said, "I'll buy it, make it." And we said, "Oh God, we don't want to do it again. We're moving on. It's my daughter now." And he goes, "You make it, we'll buy it." And I said, "Well, I don't know how much it will buy it." And they did. So we resurrected Manx.
The funniest one was I'd gone in to see the guys, and like I'm really new to it. I was only mid-20s, and never met the guys that run this. They've been our distributors for like ever. And I'd only ever met Bernie, who's does the admin side of things. I'd never met Joe, who's the actual boss. It's his name that's on the business. And I'd gone in to drop some cases off or something, and this guy I'd never met before starts going in. He was like, "When are you going to bring the Man X back?" And I was like, "Oh, well, we're not doing it anymore. We're doing the Bifrost instead." He was like, "Well, it's just ridiculous." He said, "People want it. People are asking us for it all the time. It doesn't make good business sense. You really need to start making it again." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, I'll speak to Dad." And I came home and I was like, "So I think I met Joe." I was like, "If it's not Joe, then one of the guys in the warehouse is real pushy about his business." And he's lovely. So
what was the decision to not make it anymore? Was it just from?
Okay, right. Bob died. Yes, no, Bob Taylor, who fell into distilling.
Was he
and
we at one point?
Hey,
was he a fisherman?
He was a fisherman. You know this because I buried him, and Alan helped me move the body. And I'm genuinely not joking.
It's like how to become a distiller. It was not just Dead Man's Boots. I helped.
Bob wasn't very well, and so we had a period where we couldn't do anything, and then Bob died, and we buried him. I'm a humanist celebrant, and Alan's a Coast Guard. So
no, I didn't bury Coast Guard there. Bob, Bob was. I never met him. I think while alive, but he wanted to be buried in a. He got a cardboard box, like a proper coffin box, and he wanted his. He bought a van, and he wanted that as his hearse.
Yeah, he didn't want to spend any money on his funeral, so he didn't.
So I was the driver of the van, and it was quite a steep graveyard, and make sure the handbrake's on the van I've never done before, so I don't knock over gravestones because I think that's unlucky. But the coffin wouldn't even fit in the back, so it was sort of wedged over. But anyway, that's not important to this story.
No.
I get the feeling because of all the years of doing it, and Andy was getting a little bit
jaded
because they used to do a lot more orders, like a lot more bottles than we do now. So when Andy decided to retire the Manx Spirit and move to Bifrost, we were doing very small batches, like 250 bottle runs type thing. Keeping it in house. We'd do it. The first few ones were done with jugs and stuff, filling them, and so I get the impression that we tried to retire it because Andy was a bit disillusioned, but then we were bullied back into it.
And I'm so glad we were there.
It's fun.
The first time was okay because Andy was there to decide on how to do it. Then he disappeared off to France, so I was left and there was another big order. Separated the parts and then trying to work out myself how to remix. And I got taste blind quite quickly. It's like that. Oh, nice.
How close is the Manx now or Manx now to what it was? Is it identical or
No.
similar now?
It's not supposed to be. Oh my gosh. Yes, it's not supposed to be.
I was really worried because I wasn't so keen on the original Manx, but lots of fans for it. But I really liked the one I made, and I was a bit scared. One of the reasons we entered into competitions because I had stage fright. It was good that we got 2 stars in Great Taste, the silver and something else. But worst case scenario is I liked it, so I was happy to do it.
Well, it sounds like from the chat that a lot of people in it like it as well. So I'm just going to go around a few people and get their thoughts on it. Ryan, what do you think of it, mate?
All right.
How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, just get a lot of sort of new make sort of notes. It's kind of already been said, really. Definite maltiness to it. That's like really there. But in a very clean sense. And the foam bananas are quite up front with me, but there's almost like a stone fruit kind of vibe to it as well. I can't put my finger on it, but yeah.
Does it remind you of any other distilleries new make, or is it got its own thing going on?
I mean, I've only tried a couple. Probably a little bit similar to Cotswold, maybe, but different at the same time. I think Cotswold's probably a bit funkier, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Phil, what's your thoughts on it, mate?
It's really good. Almost choked on that then when you came to it. I think it's really nice. I think I put in the chat getting the fruits that people are getting, but I think there's like a nuttiness on the back of the palate, maybe Brazil nuts. And I again put it in the chat. I just can see myself drinking this outside with a fire in the summer, big chunk of ice. I think it's a really refreshing drink. Yeah.
Do you think it would go well in like cocktails and things like that, or would you just go?
Yeah, I think I'd like to try it in a cocktail, but I think equally happy just in a tumbler with a chunk of ice and sipping away. Very good.
Yeah, cool. Dave, what's your thoughts on it, mate?
I've got slightly different notes to most people. I think it is coastal, but I find it more savoury than sweet.
Right.
Sort of briny, bit meaty. It reminds me a bit of Outlaw King, a blend done by Annandale Distillery. It's a while since I've drank that, but it's kind of taken me back there, really.
Cool. Excellent. You like it?
Yeah. It's confusing because
May I ask how long ago was it that you took that mouthful, and how recent was your opinion? Was there
what opinion of this?
Were you getting this as a long aftertaste?
This is just it was on the nose. Oh, sorry, I'm shouting. There's people in bed. It was on the nose, and then I'll take another sip now. I think I can get smoky notes.
Yeah.
Don't know if you've used any peated spirit, but
it's a space side. This one's a blend. We've got a company on the Isle of Man called Lombard Whiskies, and they are own brand label, mass production, specialist sources of whiskey. But I went to school with Richard 45 years ago, so that'll give you a clue. And Richard crashed his mum's car, but not a lot of people know that. Well, that he was.
We all do now.
Do it now.
So yeah, I've used Richard, and I trust him to source me a profile that meets what we want. But you asked a question earlier. What's the difference between then and now? We like to say it's an evolutionary step in the distiller's art, and the whole purpose of what Lucian started was, how can you take something that's okay or contains good elements and make it better? And so your feedback's invaluable to me, and I really do appreciate it. By the way, I'm not just saying that. I don't get out very often, shall we say, and we don't let me out very often. And Sunday nights, I'm usually unconscious by now because
the night is young.
Having worked Sunday Carvery solo, well, not quite solo today, but yeah, it's flat out stuff. It's good fun. One enjoys.
Awesome.
But yeah, it's meant to be better. Now, the next batch we'll get of malt from Margaret, who's Richard's mother, will be to this profile. However, it won't be the same exact recipe blend. It's done to a profile because that's what we prefer to work on. Because then what we can do is break the product down into effectively its constituent parts, a plurality of fractions, as the patent called it. And we can remove groups or portions of a category of alcohol or volatile compound that's been distilled over. We can remove them completely, and that will change the overall composition quite significantly. And it is fun. And I haven't stopped learning.
That's cool.
If I think I know how to do it a little better, and Al's the one taking over now. Al definitely has developed and acquired his own particular stance, and he's aware of all the little nuances. Well, not all of them. He's getting aware of them, and that's fun. And why stop? Why bury yourself and handcuff yourself to history, and limit yourself? Which, after the High Court case in London, the Scotch Whisky Association did. You can never make this product and call it whiskey. You can't take a malt whiskey from your Scotch whisky distillery, pass it through a still, turn it white, and call it whiskey. You can call it anything else you want, spirit, drink, vodka, or whatever, but you can't call it whiskey. And that's because they sued me in 1994, and it came to court in 97 when we had the judgment. And that determined it was a major turning point in the drinks industry.
All right, got ya. Toby, what's your thoughts on it, mate?
Yeah, I really like it. I find that it's lovely and sweet. I get those vanilla notes. I get the cereal. I also get a little bit of sort of like fizzy sherbet and even like a hint of citrus.
Yeah, cool. You enjoy it?
Yeah, I really like it.
Would it be a drink for you to drink like straight, or would you do something with it?
I think I prefer it straight, but I'd definitely try it in like, mixed with something to see, how well it works.
I mean, this comes in at 40%, doesn't it?
Yeah, Manx has always been 40, even though it's a spirit drink, and I could have sold it at 37.5. I chose not to. There is, oh God, yes. There is nothing on the actual bottle that isn't there for a reason. There are no embellishments that are on the actual label, the cap, the whole structure that isn't there for a very good reason. So we kept it at 40 because, as you well know, you can't sell a product as whiskey at 38%, could you? Oh, could you?
Stop it. I don't know.
Stop it. You could if you were called Bells.
Stop it.
No. Oh, don't get me started on the court. They sued me. They not broke my life. They absorbed my entire life for like 3-4 years, and I got extra jobs and had to sell my house. We managed okay, but the nice people in the Scotch Whisky Association, yeah, they spied on me, they cheated, they did all sorts of wonderful things. So yeah, there's a little bit of animosity behind that. But the comeuppance is, you cannot redistill whiskey and call it whiskey because of me. Or rather, because of the Scotch Whisky Association. Now, what happens when future generations, for instance, turn around and want to drink? For instance, if you're making a cocktail, you don't want a muddy brown color. You want a clean spirit, one that will carry the color that you're adding to it.
I don't know if it tastes nice.
The other one is, what happens if there's something in a product that you really don't want in that product? But you could remove it, and yet you can't.
You can't, but you don't
We
have
can't, you
aging.
just
Oh yeah, you can, but you just can't call it whiskey, which is unfortunate. The Scots Whisky Association declared in paragraph 9, and I haven't looked that up. I've remembered that since 1994, that nothing whatsoever may be carried out to whiskey after it has left the cask. Full stop. And that was in their declaration. And I just thought, oh wow, you add food coloring, you add water, you ultraviolet light treat, you filter, you chill filter, you pass through carbon filters. You know, you do an awful lot to whiskey after it has left the cask. So that sort of eyed me up. And yeah, maybe I should have just.
When you were a little suspicious, I just wanted to know what.
Yeah, they didn't know how I was making it. I'm not joking. Are you guys happy if we just sit and drink and chat and I tell you boring
shit? Carry on. Go for it.
Oh yeah, I know we got another drink, but seriously, if you want this, tiny distillery. My God, we were selling 6,000 cases, well, 70,000 bottles a year. It's tiny little nonsense. We won a big award in Distribution Actualidad in Spain. And the next thing I know is, well, I found out later the reason why I got a strange phone call from Spain was somebody visited and said, well, can we have some evidence for our court case we're bringing to sue the producer of this to our distributor? And that, funnily enough, may have curtailed sales for a while. But anyway, another story. They're nice people.
But when they were over to see how it was
Oh
done,
yeah, they had to come over by plane, which we're a small island. So what time do you start distilling? Well, in order to get it done in the time you have allotted, 8 o'clock in the morning. Oh, but the flight doesn't get in till 9, so they had to come the day before. We have a barrister, a lawyer, a scientist, and a clerk. And this is the Isle of Man, and none of them are paying a penny for themselves. This is all going on the expenses. So they turn up at 8 o'clock. Bob puts the still on, turns it on, and then he just goes back. And you want a cup of tea? And he goes, yeah, sure, fine, got drinks. He says, now what? This is where we wait 4 hours for it to get warm.
And then you have it on the low setting.
Oh, yeah, and I said to Bob, why is it taking so long? And he's going, you didn't want me to turn it up, did you? So they missed their flight home.
Was there something about the scale as well?
Oh, the temperature gauge on the still that Lucian built was in Fahrenheit. So I took a colored pen and I went from like 85 degrees to 95 was orange, and then it was red, and then it was danger marks afterwards. And it's in Fahrenheit. So of course, I've got the clerk shitting himself because he's looking up at this thing saying, I said it'll be fine as long as it doesn't go over 85. We'll be all right.
Yeah, so he thought the thing was going to explode.
Oh my God, that was... Oh God, we had such a laugh.
Do you remember?
Was the lawyer. There you go.
We've got very...
What a brilliant idea this is. Who thought of getting me drunk on a Sunday night? I've got a day off. I'm a shit day off tomorrow. It's shit face Sunday for a reason. Right, next.
You guys want to try the next sample?
Before we move on to the next sample, we've got Verity had a nice little antidote that she wanted to say. So Verity, if you can come on and share.
Hubby and I were lucky enough to try one of your old Manx at a hotel in Evesham about 4 years ago.
Was it red or blue?
Blue, I think.
Blue, we think, yeah.
All right. Okay.
This is by far an evolution. Very nice.
You prefer this one?
Definitely.
I mean,
he made this one. I made the other one. Yeah. All right, shut up. But why wouldn't you embrace positive change?
No. I want to hear the rest.
Yeah. Hang on a second.
Just because I'm winning this one.
Verity, she speaks the truth. She does.
She does. I do. Yes.
No, she prefers his now. No,
yeah, it's my name, definitely.
Has the price point changed over the years? Because it's what, $32.50 now?
Yet again.
You're gone again. You're back. You're
All
back.
right, we're back. Sorry about this, Mother.
So don't worry, it's not a
You
problem.
can't hear me.
We all have
You
these
promised
with
me this was
customer.
internet that would work.
Oh, gone again. The more drunk I get, the worse the internet gets.
And my drinking internet.
Open this one. It gets pricey.
Yeah.
No, but if you can imagine the stream coming off the condenser head, it sounds terribly technical. What it actually looks like, awfully, is a piece of braided polypropylene pipe that comes off the stainless steel head. But it means we can divert the flow. So once we are in constant ethyl alcohol run, which is at 87.6 degrees, it'll sit there and it'll just alcohol, neutral alcohol. And as we sample it, it's just ethyl alcohol. We can siphon off, or rather just divert off a portion of that alcohol. And we call them bidons. We have 25-litre drums, and we'll fill them up and label them. Now what we're able to do at the end of the process is take the first run through, which contains a lot of the volatile, well, all of the highly volatiles, the esters, the aromatic ends rather. Then you've got your neutral alcohol, and then you've got your tail ends, which have got all the heavier compounds, which add mouthfeel in particular. You've got your vanillins down there, you've got your oleic acids down there that are going to really impact on that. But we can play around with on the grey edges on the sides and in the middle. So we can pull out neutral alcohol and we can remove individual groups of compounds if we want.
Awesome. So you have got a lot of play then with flavour and things, haven't you? You can do what you want, really.
Yeah, we can remove, we never add. There is no molecule of anything ever added to anything other than water. Yeah.
Slightly annoyingly, because with the mouthfeel stuff, you know, like non-chill filtering's quite popular now, but because it's been so clear, when you chill it, you really see the cloudiness.
Right.
We still chill filter, but it'd be nice if we didn't have to.
Yeah, it's when they said no process whatsoever may be carried out to the product after it's left the cask and still be called whiskey, I just said chill filtration. And do you know what the response from the lawyers from the Scots Whisky Association? Well, we do it carefully.
We carefully read this.
And oh, it's our tradition. Your tradition goes back to late 60s, 68, 69, something around. They were looking at chill filtration in those days. It's bullshit. And I just said, why are you holding back an important industry by claiming some magical property to heritage? You know, I'd rather have a better drink rather than the one.
We're not saying this is better than any other drinks. But.
Yeah. Don't. They asked me, but if just because. Oh, right. Is anybody out there remembering? God, what was his name? Justice Harmon. He was a crusty old English judge who said he didn't know who the Beatles were. He was quite famous back in the billion years ago. Well, he was one of the judges who settled a case about whether or not I could use the term carcinogenic in my evidence. And we went before Justice Harmon during the trial process itself. And they decided we could mention this, because the evidence that we had was in the public domain in the form of patent applications. And quite cleverly, the person who'd written the patent was also the expert witness for the Scotch Whisky Association. So we kind of knew that if you have a patent for removing something that you know to be carcinogenic, and you're working with the people who are telling you nothing whatsoever may be carried out to the product and it still be called whiskey, at some point you get pissed off. And it was probably at that point that I decided that, no, let's fight this fight. So we did. It was great fun.
Cool. Talking of great fun, should we try this
Bifrost. Right. I'm going to step back a little because I'm old and crusty and nobody wants to hear me talk.
But just a little, because Andy has a tendency to, here's...
Yeah, no! Right. One thing, we can take any cask-aged spirit drink and redistill it. We've done it with bourbon. We blended bourbon and whiskey. We blended bourbon and rums. We've just gone to town. Why not invent your own? If you can remove the bits you don't like, which is for me the stale ashtray taste I get. Have you ever tried putting whiskey in a tumbler, then letting it vent and then sniffing the residue that's non-volatile? That's literally what we throw away. And if you guys like it, that's great. I don't, and so I didn't like it. So
it's your liqueur or your spirit, so you can do what you want.
When I got dragged in, it meant I was allowed to distill because of the license. So we also had a little.
Have you explained you're Becky's husband?
No.
Oh yeah, no.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now, doesn't it?
So I'm not really
He's married to her and made my grandchildren.
Indentured servitude?
Yeah.
Indentured servitude. That's how
my background's engineering. There's a company on the island that does kettles. So I did a lot of the test equipment and manufacturing for that. So when Andy was wanting to go for a smaller scale, and the old still was oil was burnt to produce steam that would then heat it, and because I'm involved, I've done a lot of stuff with heating, like accurate temperature controlled ovens and this sort of stuff for my proper work. It's like, you don't want to do that, put elements in and heat it and stuff. So we, together with Andy's knowledge on a lot of other stuff and what bits we went around, we rebuilt this still. That's not what I was originally talking about.
Oh my god, you're terrible.
So much.
This is why I don't tend to let these two in front of people.
No.
Yeah. I'm an engineer. I'm not allowed to talk to people.
No.
Machine.
Talk to robots. You can talk to robots, can't you? We have a 2-day festival every year on the island in September called the Alaman Food and Drink Show, which is fabulous. We've been doing it for quite a while, and I love it because I love being with people. Alan, not so much. But this last year, I hurt my back really badly by the end of the first day and was in bed on really high strength painkillers for about 3 weeks afterwards. And Dad was you away? Oh no, you were working. It was a Sunday, so we couldn't drag Dad off the carvery. We were like, well, I couldn't stand up. There was no way I could go. So okay, I'll go. And it was like he had PTSD afterwards. It was hysterical. He came home and I was like, how was it? And he was like,
I shouldn't have said that, and I shouldn't have given that.
And he's like, I've never spoken so many words in my entire life.
My voice had gone.
Yeah, you totally lost your voice, hadn't you? It was hilarious.
I had to do a radio interview as well.
Oh yeah, that was quite funny.
They're famous.
I got a phone call and he was like, I've just done the radio. And I'm like, what do you mean you've just done the radio? And he was like, I've just done the bloody radio, Becky. I don't even know what I said. I just went blank and I talked for ages. I was like, I'm sure you'll be fine.
There's a bit where we're saying, where can you buy it? We unfortunately started helping Andy out, and then that's it. I got dragged into the still because of that.
You were young.
Helped make this stuff. Next thing I know, I'm the master of the stuff. But for that one, the guy said, "Where can you buy it?" I was like, "We got a bit thing because we suddenly had 3 kids and we didn't push the drink very far." And he went, "Oh, the kids involved? Oh yeah. Oh, hang on, there's alcohol. No kids involved." But with being dragged into it, no, it's gone again.
You're so cute.
No, you're all right. You developed the still. The Bifrost has only ever been made in our new still.
Yes. So Andy, when he decided after Bob had died, we're retired the Manx, he found a really nice cognac. But bear in mind, in the past, you'd done stuff with some Irish whiskies, and you'd done some other.
Yeah,
bits.
We won't mention the Irish whiskey stuff.
Oh, that's what I was going to.
That's where the McCattons come from.
No,
anybody who knows how to taste whiskey will know what I'm talking about.
Once I got loose to be able to redistill stuff, if I could buy it already, so the duty's paid, because most of the thing with this. It were basically glorified tax collectors. So
I'm going to get my shut up spoon.
So friends of mine were quite into Jamesons and Bushmills. One of them was getting married, so I thought, oh, I'll give it a go sampling this small still. It was like a lab type still. So I redistilled some Jamesons because a friend who was getting married really liked Jamesons. Did two versions of it. One of it I cut off quite early, one I left longer. And they took Neil, who went to Japan for his honeymoon stuff, his wife's French, and they had all these like really expensive whiskies and stuff. But my version of Jameson's, like, I didn't even like separate. The older guys who, when they're going, oh yeah, these are good whiskeys stuff, they said, that's a really good starting whiskey, if you know what I mean. You know, like it's a really good. They like the flavor and stuff, but at the same time, it wasn't off-putting like some of the over.
That would be the non-volatile residue.
Yeah, so similar to where you guys were getting the cleanness and stuff. Now,
that's quite a lot of the feedback that we do get with both of the spirits. Is that they are? We've had it from one of the judging panels from one of the awards we've won with Bifrost. I can't remember which off the top of my head. But the judges had said that it was like drinking a cleaned cognac. And that is, and like somebody said before, that it was quite confusing, and we do get that quite a lot as well.
Oh yeah, you've seen the clear liquid, but it's got smell and flavour.
Yeah. So that is, it's always fun. I really like doing the shows and seeing people trying them for the first time, because they know, they go, oh yeah, I know what this is going to be, and they go, oh.
Shall we see what some of our people in the chat think then, shall we?
Absolutely, yes, please.
I'm going to go to Tom first, because I think Tom likes a bit of a cognac, if I remember right.
Nice.
Oh, I don't know about that. I'm very inexperienced. I've drunk it. Does that count?
You're in good company with us, Loving.
What's your thoughts on this, mate?
Yeah, I think it's interesting again. I mean, I guess from my perspective, what I've probably missed is what got you started redistilling other spirits, because I think they're interesting drinks. It's just not something I've come across before, really. And especially, I guess, around the ABVs as well, why maybe not a higher ABV, and do you play around with different expressions and stuff, similar to like you get different ages of whiskey at different ABVs and stuff. I'd be interested to know if you had any plans around that for these drinks. But I mean, in terms of flavour, I think it's like you said, it's quite clean. I think it's got sort of like more of a purple grape Fanta on the nose for me. It reminds me, Phil and Loffy said cake and licorice, and I definitely got those notes. But then on the palate, I get more sort of white grape and peach, and almost like a bit of fizziness, almost like a slur or something like that. I think I could quite easily drink quite a lot of it on a day with ice, like this one in particular.
Though, does have an effect if you do drink a lot of it, from experience.
yeah, I can imagine. I mean, these guys don't need to imagine what kind of effect it would have on me, because they've seen it enough. But
You're right. Nick, what's your thoughts on it, mate?
Well, I was just going to say that Tom saying he could drink a lot of it differentiates it from no other spirit or drink named that. There's no difference whatsoever. So yeah, I think I stopped drinking a little while ago just because I found the whole entertainment factor of listening to you guys much more, even better than the drink. It was, you ought to do a live daily podcast, I think, on what you're doing over there.
We'd get locked up.
Yeah, you should.
We would definitely talk us all into some serious trouble, I'm quite sure.
I would.
And the Bifrost, I quite like it. The palate and the nose are quite different from my perspective. So I do get the licorice and the cake. I get something, I'm not sure it's the right term, but something almost slightly medicinal at the back as well, like germaline, but only the very edge of it, just right at the back. And then, on the taste, I think Phil said like banana skins, because they can be quite dry but quite sweet as well. So that unripened banana skin. But yeah, really interesting drink.
Awesome. Verity, I know you're not on camera, but I'm interested to hear what you think if you're there, because obviously you enjoyed the other X's that you've tried.
The Bifrost is delicious. You get that hint of cognac on the back of on the palate, but yeah, nice work, Becky. Really good.
I can't really take any of the credit. No, I can't.
No.
So I think it was Tom that said before about like what got us interested in doing different spirits, and Dad actually came across another small family-run distillery in the next village over from us, and they've got a holiday home in France.
Yeah.
And yeah, discovered this cognac, and it's like the cognac we start with is beautiful.
Oh. To give you an idea, the chap we buy it from, and if any of you into all your tippy-tappy-typey Google stuff, his name is Jacques Petit of André Petit et Fille. That was his grandfather was André, I think. He's 5th generation, highly respected, and the nicest man I think I want to spend time with. He is hardworking like you wouldn't believe. He runs his own distillery. There's him and a few workers he brings in during the vendage, and then the distillation. He sleeps next to the still. He is an artist of the last sort, and a genuinely nice person, highly respected in the Cognac region. Jacques Petit is one of the elite in that.
Remy Martin or one of the others put down his
granddad. We don't talk about things like that. And if you are ever fortunate to be in the village of Bernoy near Condion, which is where I live, in the next door village, pop in and see Jacques, and if he's there,
the cognac was really nice, and we were a little bit scared because with it we were originally called it a vodka, but we were doing do you want to do that?
Yeah, so when we first started making Bifrost back in late 2015, so we did it because Dad found the cognac, absolutely loved it, and thought, you know, if we tinker around with this, it could be something really special. So we had a bash, and fell in love with it. And when it came to what do we classify it as, we sort of thought, well, what do you call it? You know, and like Dad was saying, they've had sort of 20 plus years of Manx spirit. What's that? And so we went with calling it a vodka because legally it satisfies the classification of a vodka. It's more than 37.5% ABV. It's produced from agricultural origins. It's not a potato or a grain, obviously, but it's from grapes, so that's cool.
As long as we say distilled from grape on the label, which we do.
But what we actually found was that by calling it a vodka did it a bit of a disservice, because we found that brandy drinkers who would love it because it's redistilled cognac were getting turned off by the vodka. And we were finding as well that some vodka drinkers, if you're expecting a traditional vodka, which is a neutral spirit, this obviously, I mean, you guys are all trying it now, is certainly not a neutral spirit. So we, when was it? A couple of years ago, we reclassified it as Bifrost Manx Spirit. So we have Manx Manx Spirit and Bifrost
When we originally
Manx
called it vodka, it was when the whole craft beer was kicking off. So, having something with a bit more guts to it made sense, but vodka didn't really follow it.
Yeah, it didn't go quite the same way that we thought it was going to.
So with the Bifrost, with the Manx Spirit, we sort of intensify the flavour of the whiskey we're getting, whereas with the Bifrost, we kind of turn it down a little bit. The cognac is really nice. The Bifrost also, I think, is nice, but they're different beasts. So when Andy took a bottle of it to
Jacques,
the original guy, we were really scared to, like, we've taken your baby and what have we done?
Messed around with it.
So it was really good when the feedback, he liked it. weirdly, his wife, who doesn't drink,
Yeah.
liked it more than So
Yeah.
whether we got them into trouble.
And a chap called Thierry really likes it, and I can't say anything more. And if any of you are sleuths out there, you'll know who Thierry is.
But
Not
yeah,
a
it was really
football
good
He's
when
not a
we're
footballer.
taking Jacques baby, because he like the whole barrel management sound, like he's a proper. I effectively just switch on the big kettle and switch off again. There's a joke I make. There's a little bit more involved, but
he's the
Jack
artist.
has so much skill and stuff. So for him to not be upset with what we did with his creation was like the best.
Yeah, anything else?
And why did you go for 42.2 with this one? I would imagine.
Oh, right. Do you
want
want the actual truth, full, honest answer?
I was surprised that it wasn't 40 the same. To be honest.
You want the made up answer?
No bollocks, go with the real one. Wait, hang on a minute. What's the real one? I can't remember.
Okay, 41.2% is the
No, it's
shut up.
42.2 that
I know, shut up. I'm telling you the truth. You probably don't know this story. Right,
yet.
Charles Rolls, God, or Royce, one or the other. One of his relatives was a Rolls Royce. Anyway, doesn't matter. Acquired a Plymouth gin 1 billion years ago and produced Plymouth gin at 41.2%, right? And he wasn't wrong. He went on to then go and found Fever Tree Tonic, I believe.
Thing is, when we did,
he's not wrong with stuff, and so I thought I'd go one better. Sorry, you don't know that.
I didn't know that story. I didn't know why it was 42.2.
Somebody look it up. Whoever bought it from, he bought it from the brand Plymouth Gin from Allied Domec, probably in the mid 90s. And anyway, I met up with him, had a few too many gins, and he just turned around, and he is, I hope he's still alive, a wonderful chap, a rogue, if you like, and a lovable one, and very, very good at what he did.
Yeah.
He took a tired old gin and made it Plymouth gin, the one you're familiar with.
You certainly one-upped him. We'll give you that.
I know.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that.
I see you. Informative tasting, even for you.
It's been great for me as well.
Yeah. Are you guys bored or want to go to bed yet? Because I'm not quite shit-faced.
We need to just go on to the hour now.
And by the way, the last one, switch off the light and just tell me to go to bed.
We will we'll let you go in a minute because
as long as you want to, I will be here.
All right.
I want one quick money's worth. Hey, they paid good money to watch me.
To be honest, I want to come on to that as well because you were kind enough to send us the samples for free.
Yeah.
And I mean, that is always very generous of people, and we do thank you for that because it was such a nice. That wasn't expected. So when you offered, it was a nice offer. So we applaud for that.
So we, as Dad said before, we've got a restaurant, and a big part of that is because we are a massive bunch of feeders. We just like to feed people, and
no, none of this is. I want to bring an end to capitalism, and we're going to go about it by having a really good restaurant and a really good distillery, and we're very happy and not get paid. We're happy. We'll just be anarchic communists.
Can I just say that in the chat, people are saying that you three need to start a YouTube channel. They would all watch it.
Well, no, shut up. Seriously, Al's never not allowed. He's like a vampire. You can't normally.
Just going back to the restaurant. Is the restaurant and the distillery in the same area? Is it the same?
No, they're actually at opposite ends of the island, more or less.
Shit, yeah, they're like opposite ends of the world.
So we live. The island's only small.
No, it's huge.
No, it's not. Tricky face. It's only little by these guys' standards. It's tiny.
It's like going to Burntwood. Who's from Burntwood?
Stop it with this.
Shout out for
Jesus.
Burntwood.
Shut up, you pay.
From here to get to the distillery takes 40 minutes. But to us, that's a whole day's journey.
Yeah,
you know, if you
that's
go
like
there, you pack a sandwich.
Sandwich,
literally pack
tea, your
sandwiches.
passport. You've got to plan the whole day for
Toilet
it.
breaks.
Yeah, yeah.
And the restaurant's a little bit further south, like 5 minutes, so
5
not
minutes,
too
yeah,
far.
fine.
5 minutes.
But the license for selling the booze is at the restaurant now, so that's why it's
Keller Catering will supply you, but Keller Distillers is.
So we've shared your website link in the chat, so people can go straight there. The Manx is 32.50, is it? And
yes,
the Bifrost is 35.50.
Yeah.
No,
it's not.
Bifrost's more expensive.
Yes, that's what it's not terrible. This game. Jesus.
So if anybody else,
This is my life.
It was £9 bloody pounds and 3 shillings when it started.
This is why you need a YouTube channel.
I need a stiff drink.
Definitely, Becky. You've done a good job keeping them in.
Becky, there's just I'll concentrate on you, Becky. Okay, yeah. We ask a couple of fun questions at the end of our chats, just to see what your answers are. If you don't mind giving them a go.
Always.
All right. Okay. So, is Die Hard a Christmas film?
Yes, I just put a picture of him falling off the plaza, and Christmas has started. Yes, it's a Christmas film.
It's a Christmas film. That's
until he falls off the plaza. It's not Christmas.
Which you doesn't think it's a Christmas
There's
film?
a few.
There's a few.
It's quite controversial in our
Amazing.
How?
I kind of wish I'd said no now.
You're on my door.
These seem really nice. We won't hold it. Okay.
Yeah, who says no?
We think it's a yes.
We think it's a yes.
It's just not
Right, guys.
Thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you so much for having us. It's been
Sorry.
Nothing to be sorry about.
Whatever. You said have a drink and relax. That's all.
And that's exactly what you did. Thank you for joining us, guys.
Thank you so much. Oh yeah, thank you so much.
I'll talk to you. See you later, guys. Thanks a lot.
You said it was going to be awful.